It's a Thursday edition of Locked On Grizzlies. The Memphis Grizzlies are one of the hottest teams in Las Vegas right now. Another nice win, this time over the Orlando Magic. The Grizzlies are 3-0, currently a playoff team in the Summer League. We're going to talk about that, who the MVP of this team so far is, and more on this episode of Locked On Grizzlies. Let's lock in.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to this Thursday edition of Locked On Grizzlies. I am one of your hosts, Joe Mullinax, joined by my co-host, Damichael of the Commercial Appeal there in Memphis, Tennessee. He's the Memphis Grizzlies beat writer for that publication, has wonderful insights on the team. I dabble here or there. I'll probably get mad about G.G. Jackson not having any assists again at some point this episode. But I digress. You've come to the right place. Thank you for making us a part of your NBA and Memphis Grizzlies content consumption today. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts as proud members of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every day. Like, comment, rate, review, subscribe. Literally anywhere you can get a podcast. We continue to have strong numbers on YouTube. Keep checking us out wherever you get audio podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, Apple. Take us with you wherever you are, wherever you're going, whether you're exercising in the car, whatever the case might be. Make sure you're subscribing, downloading, and listening on the audio side as well. Damichael Cole, another win. I'm going to do my best to not be a curmudgeon because, we've talked a lot about G.G. Jackson of late. Now I'd like to see him facilitate more.
Right.
If he listens to Locked On Grizzlies, he's not listening to me. I think that's a fair point to make because he cares very little for that. He had a very impressive showing, another double-double. He scored the ball really effectively. And before we started recording, Damichael, you made the point, and I do think this is an important point. Here later on in the show, we're going to talk about who the MVP of this Summer League run is so far. To me, it's one of two people. It's either G.G. Jackson or it's Scotty Pippen Jr. The interesting part of it when it comes to G.G. is we've seen him score at a high level. He did it again, obviously, last night. Mm-hmm. That is translatable to what he should be able to do in the NBA, especially if he comes off the bench against reserves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. I mean, the way he scores, like Gigi he's a talented scorer. This is why he was the top ranked recruit out of high school at one point. This is why he, played for Team USA basketball and all these great, accomplishments that he's had up to this point. His ability, to handle off the dribble, the ways he can score it, the spot up 3-point shooting, the range. I mean, he took a couple. Like, Gigi, hold up, like what are you doing? But he's demonstrated the ability to shoot from that range before. He showed it again in this game, and he looks comfortable. We're a long way from that 0 for 10 3-point shooting in that first game in Salt Lake City when me and Joe were pointing out some of the shot selection in that game. You make a fair point about the playmaking. That's something me and you have kind of harped on even before Summer League started. It is a crucial developmental area of G.G. Jackson's game. And if he doesn't become that, secondary facilitator that Desmond Bane has become, or Marcus Smart is a connector and things like that, it kind of, puts you in a position to question, at best where he fits in terms of, is he a starter? Is he going to come off the bench? But that's a long-term outlook type of question. I think right now it's more, the better thing to focus on is the rebounding. And he put together second consecutive double-double. And he's still only 19. He still, has those broad shoulders, still going to grow into his body a lot more. I mean, 3 years from now, G.G. Jackson probably will look much different, body-wise. And when that happens, I think that's when, the rebounding, there is talent there. So I think that's an area that the Grizzlies will need him to be good in. And in the simplest form, yes, the assist numbers are poor. Like, there's no way around it. They're very poor. The playmaking from getting other guys involved has not been a strength of his game. But he's kind of covered that up in a way with the way that he has, rebounded the basketball, particularly in these last 2 games. There's no Zach Edey out there. Trey Jemison has been solid, but Trey Jemison ain't out there getting 12, 13 boards, or 15 boards like Zach Edey did. So you need other guys to come over and help, and Gigi Jackson has been phenomenal as the lead rebounder. I think he had 13 rebounds, 27 points to go with 13 rebounds in this game, and that's going to be crucial. That's something that the Grizzlies want to see translate for him as well.
That matters a lot. No denying that. And, you also point out Zach Edey once again did not play for the Memphis Grizzlies. Who's surprised? You shouldn't be. They continue to say, oh, he's going to come back. Watch. I'll believe it when I see it. I'll be happily wrong.
Joe, he's officially under the 3.5. Remember, we said under 3.5 games played in Las Vegas, and I think we both took the under on that one. So
it was easy money. That one was easy money, knowing this organization. I think that the fun thing about this Summer League team, and I talked a little bit about this, I think, on my solo episode. I love how they're picking up at full court. I love the point of attack defense. Yeah. Every year it seems like they have something that they focus on, Damichael, and that really seems like to be a priority for them. I don't know that we'll see Ja Morant doing 94 feet of hell or anything like that.
Absolutely not.
I do think that you're going to see, I have a football background, calculated risk in terms of like blitzing in a football game, right? You're trying to attack a certain part of an offense, trying to create more turnovers. It looks like that's what they're playing with, trying to be more aggressive, put them in tougher situations with the playmaking decisions on the opposing team's hands and making them earn every pass or just about every pass.
Yeah.
Not being, I don't want to say lazy because I don't think you would qualify Memphis as a lazy defensive team, but they seem even more active than they've been in the past. And again, it's going to be different when you have the real Grizzlies out there, but usually Summer League is a preview of what might be to come in terms of points of emphasis for the season ahead. And defense, and again, not necessarily pressure, but calculated pressure seems to be one of those, and that carried through against the Magic as well. Didn't always work, right? It was a high-scoring game, probably maybe one of Memphis's worst defensive performances on Wednesday night. But still, they got the win, and they were still able to generate some turnovers, especially Scotty Pippen Jr.
Yeah, and that's a great point that you make because it's buried way down on the bottom of the list of things to watch this year because defense hasn't been a concern in the Taylor Jenkins era. But Taylor Jenkins' whole staff just got revamped. There were guys on that staff that were very helpful for him from a defensive game planning perspective. Sure, Taylor Jenkins is the mastermind. I'm not taking away from that. But you wonder, and like I said, this is way down the list on things because I still think there'll be a phenomenal defense. But you wonder, like, what type of impact will that have? Because a lot of these guys that they went after are more offensive-oriented, type of assistant coaches, at least from their background. So that is something to monitor, just how much will the defense change. But getting to your point, yes, the Summer League is when you get experimental. And then, of course, guys have 10 fouls to play with. So, Scotty Pippen Jr. can be a little bit more aggressive on the ball and things like that. It's less minutes and all those things. So that's part of it, I think. And, it's probably unrealistic to expect the Grizzlies to just full on like West Virginia, press Virginia U for, an entire 48 minutes game. But at the same time, I think you make a great point. This is probably, a preview of what should be an aggressive, havoc-wrecking defense. Because at the end of the day, you can take those, risk that you mentioned, Joe, simply because guess what? If you beat these guys, if you get past Ja Morant, Marcus Smart, Jaren Jackson Jr., you got a 7'4" guy waiting on you at the rim. Go dunk on him if you want to. So that's kind of the ability now with drafting Zach Edey that you have. So this kind of can be, in the Summer League, you don't have those type of guys, in the backcourt that, if they get past you and break you down like that, they're going to make you pay. Whereas in the regular season, guys like Kyrie Irving, Luka, those Western Conference star guards aren't going to be as turnover prone as some of these dudes. But at the same time, you can take that risk because you'll have Jaren Jackson Jr. come flying from the weak side. You'll have Zach Edey, in every bit of, the 7'4" standing at the rim. So I think, that is kind of a preview of things to come in a way.
And I think it's important to point out that you have more versatile defenders, right?
You
Vince
do.
Williams
You
Jr.,
do.
Desmond Bane has improved. GG Jackson, for all the hard time I give him about his facilitating, we've talked about the positive of his defense getting better.
Yeah.
Marcus Smart, of course. So they have personnel to be able to do these things and try to implement it at the NBA level. It's going to be really interesting to watch. Let Damichael and I know in the comments how you're feeling about the current state of play going into tonight's game against the Pelicans. It is a back-to-back. Will Zach Edey play? Probably not. There's probably a lot of guys that may not play. But Memphis is in the mix for a playoff spot out in Summer League, and we'll talk about that later on in the show as well. Maybe that plays in to their line of thinking. But first, this episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by the good folks over at Gametime. I love going to Major League Baseball games in the summer when it's not scalding hot outside. I'm a Washington Nationals fan. I know Damichael Cole is an Atlanta Braves fan. Whether it's in Atlanta, Washington, or anywhere else in the United States and Canada, of course, with Toronto Blue Jays, going out to the ball game is a summer tradition. I love making memories there with my family, and I would recommend that you check out Gametime to make some memories with you and yours. Download the Gametime app. Check out all of the upcoming Major League games as the second half of the season gets underway. Check out last-minute deals where you could save up to 60% buying last minute, not just for Major League Baseball games, but other major events. Zone deals where you choose a section and you let Gametime choose the seats for you. And then, of course, the lowest price guarantee. Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference if you find a cheaper ticket out there. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. When we come back here on Locked On Grizzlies, who is the MVP of Summer League so far? I think there's two options. Maybe we have a little debate between Damichael and I. Stick around. Welcome back to Locked On Grizzlies. I am Joe Mullinax, joined by my co-host, Damichael Cole of the Commercial Appeal there in Memphis, Tennessee. He's the Memphis Grizzlies beat writer for that publication. We're having a wonderful chat about the suddenly winning Memphis Grizzlies, right? How soon we can forget how terrible the regular season was. But as we've talked about numerous times, partner, one of the reasons this Summer League team is having the success it's having is the fact that a lot of these guys played actual
same
NBA
guys,
basketball, 2 months ago, or 3 months ago, I should say. So I'm intrigued by this group, and we'll talk more about that, how they should treat the rest of Summer League, or at least the upcoming Pelicans game tonight later on. But I mentioned, let's start with this, the MVP of Summer League so far, because if Memphis wins tonight against the Pelicans, they will almost certainly, have another Summer League game, right? They'll make the Summer League playoffs. I think it's the top 4 teams.
Yeah, semifinal game.
Semifinal games, okay? So they'll have another game, all right? And we'll talk more about how they'll actually treat it later on in the show. So they likely will have 2 more games at least. To this point, there's 2 guys, in my opinion. Scotty Pippen Jr., GG Jackson, that you say those guys are the MVPs of Summer League. Do you agree with that from a Memphis perspective?
I think there's one guy. I think it's a clear cut MVP for the Memphis Grizzlies in Summer League right now. Scotty Pippen Jr. There's no doubt.
I should have known, given that's your home run swing of the offseason so far. You called your shot on Scotty Pippen Jr.
I'm telling you, before Summer League play started, Joe, we talked about this roster, and I said the difference between this Grizzlies roster in the past, they had GG Jackson last season. You know, and that roster was just as stacked at the other positions, but the difference is you have a quality lead guard. Scotty Pippen Jr. pressuring, getting 4 or 5 steals the last couple games before this one, and he was a hound in this game too. Just didn't have as many steals, on the ball. But his presence defensively, the initiating the offense on the offensive end. Pretty much it feels like all of Trey Jemson's points are coming off dump off passes from Scotty Pippen Jr. Like if Scotty Pippen Jr. isn't dumping the ball off to Trey Jemson, he ain't scoring for the most part. So when you factor that in, and then you just watch the game. What did we see in this last game? The Grizzlies entered the third quarter with a 17-point lead. Scotty Pippen Jr. did not score in the third quarter. The Grizzlies ended the third quarter with a 1-point lead. Scotty Pippen Jr. scored 16 points in the fourth quarter.
Mm.
In that stretch, the Grizzlies went up by as many as 13 points and comfortably won by 6 because Scotty Pippen Jr. took the game over. G.G. Jackson was scoring in that third quarter. Now, the difference is Scotty Pippen Jr. can give you 25 with 9 assists.
Right.
G.G. Jackson's giving you 27, but it's G.G. Jackson having to, cook 2 or 3 dudes, spin move, lay up to the basket, all those type of things. The defensive pressure on the ball, the offensive initiating, the scoring, it's easy. Scotty Pippen Jr. The difference with good summer league teams, it's always going to be quality league guards, because when you get into summer league, these guys don't know anything about each other. They don't know where each other likes the ball. It's such a huge advantage to have a quality league guard. And that's why I said, you remember, Joe, when we were talking about if Zach Edey was going to play, and I said, what if I told you this team could still win without Zach Edey?
They're currently doing it as we speak.
It's because of the lead guard. You take Scotty Pippen Jr. out, they're terrible. G.G. Jackson still cooks and whatnot, but they're terrible. Put Scotty Pippen Jr. in the lineup, they're one of the best teams in Summer League.
My boy Jerome maybe disagrees a little bit with them being terrible. But I think your point is a fair one. And I'm intrigued by Scotty Pippen Jr. long-term because he is a player that is able to do things that Ja Morant either can't or doesn't want to or isn't being asked to within scheme. I love the defensive pressure on the ball. I think that's a wonderful change-up for the 12 minutes or so down the road that Ja Morant isn't playing, to have somebody in there that can change the pace. You want to talk about someone who for 12 minutes in an NBA game can press 94 feet?
Yeah.
Scotty Pippen Jr. can do that. And
Yeah.
and that it's almost like a Jose Alvarado kind of feel, right? The way that he defends and the energy he brings. He's not quite as expressive as Alvarado is.
Yeah.
But I
Now
think
manner
that,
guy, yeah.
right. But I really love his energy. I really love his effort. And you hit the nail on the head. It's Scotty Pippen Jr. because he's doing it across the board, and he's doing it in ways with the assists that he's helping others facilitate and create and score as well. G.G. Jackson, we might as well start calling him Gigi Bo, right? Like it's a new Zebo, right? If he's putting up 27-13 with no assists, I've seen a guy in a headband rocking big 50. Yeah, throw it to the hand, right?
Yeah.
But again, I want to stress 27-13 from a 20 to 25 minute a night guy in a reserve sixth man role. Sign me up. I want to make it clear I'm not hating on Gigi in a way that I don't think he should play. I hope he's in the rotation. I think it makes Memphis better. I don't see the value in him playing next to your best players because he's not able to facilitate offense, and that means he's taking shots away from guys that he shouldn't be taking shots away from. If he's playing with the reserves, he can take shots away from Luke Kennard all he wants. I don't care, right? Like, that's completely different. It comes down to how he fits with the roster. And just because Scotty Pippen Jr. is the MVP of Summer League so far doesn't mean that he's more likely to have success with the main roster. I think that's still Gigi, but it's pretty clear that Scotty Pippen Jr. is extremely comfortable doing exactly what he's doing right now, and that's leading this Grizzlies roster to some pretty impressive wins. We knew that they were talented. We knew that they'd compete, but Scotty Pippen Jr. is pretty clearly the difference maker, and that's kind of the point of a most valuable player award, right?
Yeah, if you go back to Salt Lake City and you watch the game, Scotty Pippen Jr. didn't play. Like, look how hard it was for the Grizzlies to create. Like, the people talk about the eye test. This is eye test 101 right here. Just look how hard it was for the Grizzlies, especially in that first half, to create offense, to get comfortable shots. Like, a lot of it was just tough shots. I think Cam Spencer and Jalen Wells kind of led the way in that game, and they even ended up winning. But it was not pretty, by any stretch of the imagination. But when Scotty Pippen Jr. is on the floor, they're able to comfortably, Trey Jeminson's getting that hook shot. When Cam Spencer was playing, he was getting nice, wide open looks. Same thing for Jake LaRavia and everyone that's played around him. So I think, his impact has been huge. And you're right. I do think when you look at the way that these two guys have played, G.G. Jackson and Scotty Pippen Jr. in particular, not only have we seen Gigi do it at the NBA level, so we know that he can, but at the same time, just his size, You know, it's his upside. It all screams like this is a guy whose stuff he's showing can really translate. Scotty Pippen Jr., you want to see it translate, and you believe it can translate. And quite frankly, he believes it could translate, which is the most important thing. If you watch this post-game interview, that's kind of how he's talked to me all along. Like, he's very straightforward on what he thinks he can be. And it's I want to say it reminds me of more of like the boxers that I've covered. Like, boxers are going to come out straightforward and say, hey, man, look, I want to knock this guy out and whatnot. Scotty Pippen Jr. is coming and he says, I can be a backup. I can be the backup to John Morant. He didn't say John Morant's name, but in the post-game interview, he said, I want to be the backup. And I mean, that's the job that's in the air. He's still on a two-way contract and all that. But I remember when he first came to Memphis, it stood out to me, Joe. We were just in the locker room. It was just me and him talking. There was no one else over there. It was one of the first days he was in the locker room. And he basically told me that he was like, man, I put up numbers at Vanderbilt. They still didn't draft me. I went to, the South Bay Lakers, in the G League, averaged 20, still didn't get promoted to the standard roster. Second year, putting up big numbers in the G League with the Lakers, still didn't get promoted, ended up getting traded. So all of that, like, it's to the point where he's like, look, like, I've shown at every level I can put up the numbers. I just need the opportunity.
Right. And the Lakers didn't call him up because they were saving that roster spot for Bronny, of course. Bronny James has to be on that roster.
Yeah, Scotty Pippen doesn't have the pull of LeBron.
No, he does not. Even though he does have a famous last name, which is kind of ironic. I think that when you look at this group of guys and you see how Scotty Pippen, that he's the kind of guy, again, Memphis, the front office has a type.
Yeah,
self-made, built yourself up. And again, it's ironic to say that about a guy with the last name Pippen in the NBA, but it's true. For all the reasons that you just said, he has earned everything he's gotten, and I think he's seeing the fruits of that now. Let Damichael and I know, do you agree? Do you think that the MVP is Scotty Pippen Jr. like Damichael and I do? Do you think it should be G.G. Jackson? Maybe it's somebody else that we're not mentioning that you would like to mention. Let us know in the comments. Locked On Sports Today is the first of its kind 24/7 streaming service on YouTube. You can also check it out on Amazon Fire under the free TV channels app. It's all the great shows and all the great content that Locked On podcasts provide in a nice one-stop shop, right? Damichael and I pop up over there every once in a while. Locked On Sports Today. Wonderful analytics, wonderful discussion of your favorite teams and favorite sports without being yelled at like a talking head on ESPN or Fox Sports. Make sure you're checking out Locked On Sports Today after this episode concludes. Speaking of concluding, we'll close out this episode of Locked On Grizzlies, taking a look at how Memphis will handle this game tonight. We just mentioned very much alive in a playoff conversation. Winning would guarantee them, essentially, a spot in the Summer League playoffs. How much is the Memphis Grizzlies actually going to care about that? I have a feeling I know the answer. We'll talk about it coming up next. Stick around. Welcome back to Locked On Grizzlies. I am Joe Mullinax, closing out this Thursday edition of the show with my co-host, Damichael Cole. It's always nice when you have a back-to-back partner because you can review the first game in the first segment, and you can preview what's to come in the second. I know tomorrow you're flying solo. I'm heading out on a trip with the family today, a little vacay. But I know you're going to take care of everybody and talk about the review of this coming game and all that stuff. But before we get to that, it's the Summer League finale for the Memphis Grizzlies. And if they win, like I mentioned a moment ago, they almost certainly are in the semifinals of the Summer League in a tournament setting, right? Cool. That'd be a lot of fun. The Memphis Grizzlies have proven time and again they could give a crap less about any of that. It's the second night of a back-to-back. You follow this team as closely as anyone. You mentioned how important Scotty Pippen Jr. is. Do we see Scotty Pippen Jr. line up against against the New Orleans Pelicans? Or is he going to sit? And these guys that played on the second night of a back-to-back, maybe this was the game they were saving Zach Edey for because they knew a lot of these other guys were going to sit. I guess I am ready to be hurt again. What do you think they're going to do with the roster here?
I tell you what, I don't know the answer to that question, but what I do know is this will reveal something that I think I know what your answer is to the question, but it'll reveal if they really want to win this thing. This is what's going to reveal it, because typically, no, they would not play Scotty Pippen Jr. on the back-to-back. They definitely wouldn't play G.G. Jackson. on the back-to-back in this case. Those two guys in particular. Like, everyone else is pretty much free game. Like, Trey Jemison has been like Iron Man throughout the summer league game so far. He's played all the back-to-backs and everything in between. He played all 3 games, in Salt Lake City. But those are the two guys, Scotty Pippen Jr., G.G. Jackson. I think Jalen Wells needs the minutes, and he's probably going to be out there for sure. So with that being said, if we see Scotty Pippen Jr., if we see G.G. Jackson, that will tell me that, okay, yeah, the Grizzlies, they're going for it. If we don't see them, they don't want to really win this thing. It's just they're just playing for fun at this point. Like, they're just developmental opportunities and all that. So I can't wait to see that part be revealed. But to spin it back and answer your question, I do. I mean, part of me does feel like that. Yeah, we might not see one of them or both of them, but maybe we see Zach Edey. I don't know if Jake LaRavia. Like, I don't know the situation there. I know he left the game late in the fourth quarter. I remember. I mean, we saw the Cam Spencer injury, and I think we both said, based on just the eyes, just looking at it, we would have been really surprised if he would have played in that last game. And probably won't play in this one as well. It's probably safe to say Cam Spencer. I mean, I don't know. He's a competitive dude. Like, if they get a chance, they have a chance to win Summer League, he might say, I want to play. I want to be out there. But with all that being said, I think it's going to be revealing, if anything, Joe. I think personally, this is a good opportunity for the Grizzlies to kind of build up some good juju, right? After the way last season ended, you didn't have a lot of winning, during last season. And it's not completely a different roster. It's a lot of guys. It's Scotty Pippen Jr., G.G. Jackson, Trey Jemison, Jake LaRavia. It would make them feel like, what? We can play winning basketball. Yeah, last season was ugly, but we can compete a part of a winning basketball team. John Morant already knows he can play winning basketball. Desmond Bane knows he can play winning basketball. Jaren Jackson Jr., been there. We can play winning basketball. But having these young players say, what? Those reps that we got last year were important. We can contribute to winning basketball. I think that'll be a big confidence boost that you can start building with here in Summer League.
I would play all of them. I would play every single one of them. You don't necessarily have to play them 30 minutes like GG logged 30 minutes against the Magic. Don't need to play them that long. I would play all of them. And I think that for all the reasons that you alluded to, it matters, right? Like, you can say that it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Right. People make fun of the Lakers bubble championship, call it a Mickey Mouse championship, that sort of thing. You're getting a Mickey Mouse Las Vegas trophy. I get that. But this is a group that hasn't won a lot, right? Like G.G. Jackson at South Carolina, it's not like they won a bunch while he was there that year. And now he has been putting up numbers on teams in the Memphis Grizzlies or in games with the Memphis Grizzlies that he's been losing, right? Like, it's you don't want to develop a habit of telling young players, oh, look, you have a chance to do this thing, but we don't care, right? Like, it gives off, for me personally, I want to stress that, because every time I say something a little bit radical, I don't want Damichael to get dragged down with me. It gives off, me personally, the vibe that you think you're smarter than everybody else. Like, sports exist for a reason. Competition exists for a reason. You have these guys playing in Vegas. There are no injury concerns, or if there are injury concerns, like Zach Edey, do what you're going to do. But if they are good to go, watch their minutes and let them go. Let them go and try to win. Because it's not like you've got Ja Morant out there. It's not like you've got Desmond Bane out there. If Scotty Pippen Jr. gets injured, heaven forbid, knock on wood, the Grizzlies just lost a two-way contract going into the next season. If G.G. Jackson goes down, again, knock on wood, you lost a guy who, at best, is your ninth man, right? Depending on how you view the roster. In my opinion, he's competing for minutes. That matters. But the fact remains, you're not – Edey is someone who is higher up in the totem pole in terms of regular season importance. Yeah. You're not – why are you sheltering a guy on a two-way contract if he's healthy? Cam Spencer's different. If they're healthy, go let them play.
I'm with you. Like, at this point, go for it. Like, and if there's, some reasons that they shouldn't play, injury like risk or whatever, then yeah, sit them out. Why not? But at the same time, you have a great opportunity here, and this team could actually win it. Like, they're doing this without Zach Edey. If they get Zach Edey on the floor, like, they might really destroy some teams with the way that Scotty Pippen Jr., G.G. Jackson have been playing, and that, I mean, Jake LaRavia as well. Like, Jake LaRavia is shooting 40% from three-point range in Summer League. and he's also been a defensive menace. So, I mean, they got a lot of guys that are really, playing impressive basketball. And if you put Zach Edey into that, I don't see no reason they wouldn't win it, and they should feel the same way. So yeah, go for it. Get that Summer League trophy and see how it carries over, into your season.
Jake LaRavia is probably third place in that MVP conversation.
Yeah,
from
he's
earlier,
right in
by
there.
the way.
Yeah.
He's done
Yeah.
really well. And then one last thing, and again, I want to stress, this is Joe Mullinax saying this, not Damichael Cole. Grizzlies medical staff. I just watched a whole season where you had a lot of dudes out for a lot of different reasons. Maybe let's try something different, right? Let's go wild. Let's be weird. Let's not be overprotective for a change. If a guy is not injured, just let him run. Let him go play. Because the way you did it this past year didn't work. That's just me. Thank you for hanging out with us on this episode of Locked On Grizzlies. It's been wonderful, as always, to chat with Damichael. Damichael will close us out on Friday going solo. Anything in particular beyond a recap of the Pelicans game that you're looking forward to talking about on Friday, partner?
That's pretty much going to be it. But we're gonna kind of preview in a way the weekend, because I know a lot of people aren't super familiar with how the summer league rules work, and I mean the Grizzlies won it in 2019, but it's been a while, so we'll kind of go through that process as well with what would be next. It's a semifinal game. What day that would take place if they win that game? The day of a potential championship game. What has to happen? All of those things will get covered.
Sounds great to me. I'll be checking it out probably on the beach somewhere, but I'll be
There you
listening
go.
like I always do. Hopefully you will be as well. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode here at Locked On Grizzlies. We are proud members of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every day, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Like, comment, rate, review, subscribe, especially on places like Amazon, Apple, Spotify. You can check us out on YouTube too. Make us a part of your everyday Memphis Grizzlies and NBA content consumption. Become an everydayer if you're not already one. Our subscriber numbers continue to go up. We've had a couple of strong days on the audio side. YouTube continues to grow. Damichael and I are putting in a lot of effort, a lot of time on the show, and I think the show is best when the both of us have that kind of touch on it, and it really does kind of reflect in how the show is growing. So thank you all for hanging out with us, and hopefully you'll hang out with Damichael on Friday. For Damichael, I'm Joe. Good luck to the Grizzlies, and good luck predicting what this roster is going to look like. Because like Damichael and I said, we have no idea, but it is going to be a fascinating window into how they perceive this summer league experience, especially in Vegas. Yep. For Damichael, I'm Joe. Make sure you are subscribing, liking, rating, commenting, all those fun things. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll catch you next time. See ya.